So yesterday I competed in my first barbecue competition and I learned a lot. I would still say it was somewhat of a success, but I wanted to share with you guys some of the things I learned, show you a little bit about my cook. So I was cooking on an Oklahoma Joe reverse flow smoker, a stick burner if you will, and after using just a little bit of charcoal to get started, I pretty much just used, or actually I did just use wood the rest of the way. I used mostly apple with a little bit of pecan and a little bit of cherry mixed in there too. And I'm just mentioning this because I don't know if I use more smoke than most people. It looked like most of the other competitors were running either all charcoal or they're running pellets or they're running charcoal with a few chunks of wood. So I was running pure wood and I thought that was awesome. But let's be honest, I'm just as an observation suggesting that maybe it was smokier than most people would like. So I took them, obviously trimmed them to competition length, which basically means you're taking off a couple bones from each side and getting rid of them because you don't need it. But that's not the only thing you do. That's not the only part of trimming. So the other part of trimming for competition, it's really important, at least that I did, is I'm going through and I'm looking for where it's a little bit too hefty. I got to thin that out just a little bit so I can get some consistency in the sides. And more important than that, I need to take off any weird fat. I'm not trying to trim off all the fat, but there's pockets, at least on 2 of the 3 racks I did, there were some pockets where the fat was a little bit heftier and I wanted to trim that off. And the reason that's important is it's going to keep your seasoning from adhering correctly. It also can give you some nasty color sometimes when it renders. So it's really important to kind of trim up those ribs, not just the size, but also getting all that stuff off of it so they're really in good shape. Also, you may, when you flip them over, have a skirt, or I didn't have a skirt on mine, but I had a hint of a skirt on a couple of my racks. You got to get that off. Okay, so I trimmed that off of there. Taking off the membrane, it's my personal preference. It's not required. I took the membrane off 1 of the 3 racks, and you're going, why did I take it off 1 of the 3 racks? Very simply put, couldn't get it off 2 of the racks. Sometimes the membrane is so thin, it's just too freaking hard to get it off. It just doesn't want to pop. So I got the membrane off 1 of them, and on the other 2 racks, I just scored the membrane. Then I put a light coat of yellow mustard on and layered on my seasoning heavy. Now, I'll tell you what I seasoned with. I seasoned with a 50-50 mix of SPG hot and a general all-purpose sweet barbecue rub. I don't know if that might have been a mistake. 2 reasons. Number 1, I put the seasoning on heavier than I normally do at home, because I've always heard in competitions, they want this powerfully flavorful bite. So I put the seasoning on probably twice as heavy as I normally do when I'm making ribs for myself. I don't know if that was bad or not. I think it was good. I'm just putting that out there as something that might have been a factor. The other thing that I did was, like, by using the SPG hot, I made them just a little bit spicy. Not crazy spicy, but a little bit spicy. I don't know how that was perceived by the judges. So that might have also been a learning point for me, is not using any kind of a heat in my rub. But I think I made the right move by putting it on heavy. I hit 185 degrees on my ribs at 2 hours and 15 minutes in. That is crazy. That at 275, my ribs were at 185 after only 2 hours and 15 minutes. So when I wrap my ribs, I don't have it on video, but I just did a pretty standard wrap. Brown sugar, butter, and for me, I put just a little bit of apple cider vinegar in there with it too. That was my rib wrap. So I wrapped them, and because I went to like 185 before I wrapped them, I did not want to overcook these ribs for 2 hours in a wrap. So I actually only wrapped them for about 45 minutes. And when I pulled them out of the wrap, I went and temp checked them, and they were temping out between 206 and 212, which to me was about where I wanted to be. I mean, that's bite off the bone, but it's barely bite off the bone. I mean, to give you an idea, later on, I could just take a bite and then pull that rib out with my bare hands with no effort. So I think that hit the right tenderness level, that it was barely bite off the bone. So I ended up only 2 hours and 15 minutes unwrapped, and then 45 minutes wrapped. And then I'm basically at target after 3 hours, which is crazy that that happened at 275 degrees. That is nuts. It should have taken a lot longer, but that's okay. That happens. I monitored, I made my adjustments in my cook plan. So I ended up where I needed to be, 205 to 212. Not that I'm going by temperature, but just when they looked done, when the bone peel back was right, when the tenderness was right, when I probed it, there was a nice bend, like a lot of it. All that was where it needed to be, and I was happy with it. So about 20 minutes roughly before turn-in, I opened my 3 racks of ribs, I sliced them up, and I kind of determined which ones were the best. And frankly, I came out with about 7 or 8 that were in the hunt. I took those 7 or 8 ribs, I sauced them up, put them on the smoker for another 10 minutes, just to let that sauce kind of cure up on there. And then when it was time, 5-10 minutes before turn in, I pulled them and I picked the 6 best ones, and then I put them in a box. Put my box in, and here's a picture of what it looks like. I thought my box looked pretty good. Keep in mind, this is my first time doing it. I also was told for feedback, maybe they were a little on the large size and inconsistent in size. So just giving you guys some more feedback, when you're turning in ribs, you do want them to be all the same size and have that consistency and not have them be giant too. That was a lesson that I learned. I think will be something I'll take into my next cook. So doing chicken thighs is a real challenge. You gotta get the skin just right, and there's a lot of other factors they want. So what I did with mine is I trimmed them up, and it's important to trim them up, take the skin off entirely, scrape the skin, cut it uniformly, and then take your actual chicken itself and kind of trim it up side to side a little bit, get the right shape. Then it's ready to put the skin back on. I did that process, and I seasoned them with my Cooking with Kunchi Tropical Ziner, which is a little bit of a spicy rub underneath the skin, wrapped the skin around them. I thought they looked beautiful. One lesson I've learned, or at least a feedback I've been given, is I really didn't make them uniform, and that's important. So it's critically important when you're doing chicken thighs for a competition to make them look very, very uniform in size, and I did not do that. So that was a mistake I hopefully will correct the next time. Now you're probably wondering why I used a Tropical Ziner spicy rub on my chicken breast and not a barbecue rub. It's because I didn't go with the barbecue profile. I went with a different flavor profile. So I got like that spicy rub, and then I cover them, or dip them rather, in my special H2O barbecue sauce, which isn't really a barbecue sauce anyway. So it's an orange hot honey. So hot honey orange, that's where you get H2O. It's a really delicious sauce, and it blends so nicely with the spicy Tropical Ziner, and it kind of has that sweet to balance the heat. It's a killer flavor combination. It's absolutely awesome. But I don't know how that was received by judges, other than it was not one of their 3 best chicken turn-ins they had. But I'm looking forward to getting some feedback hopefully next week and find out what they actually thought of that flavor profile. Is it a flavor profile that they liked and I can use again? Or is it something where that was part of the problem? So I don't know the answer to that, but that's one of the little takeaways I have that I'm still curious about.